Welcome to the Alouettes Flightdeck podcast, the podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football. I'm Cliffy D. You can find me on Twitter at Cliffy D.
And I'm Tim Capper. You can also find me on Twitter, but at Repact. That's REPPACT. And this episode of the podcast is presented by our good friends over at SportBuff, where if you use the promo code FlightDeck-10 at checkout, you'll get 10% off your entire order. Head over to sportbuffshop.com to get all of your sport team merch.
Mm-hmm. And folks, you can find the Alouettes Flight Deck all over the World Wide Web. You can check us out, your current episodes as well as your archives over at www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. You can find us on Twitter at AlouettesFLDeck, on Instagram at Alouettes Flight Deck, on Facebook at Alouettes Flight Deck Pod, and no, we are not on TikTok and have no plans to be at the current present time.
No. Also, don't forget, we are on YouTube. Also, just do a search currently for the Alouettes Flight Deck. And Cliff, we're so close. We're almost less than 10. Almost less than 10 away from 100. And finally being able to give away that Delta jacket, which, as I mentioned last week, you are still eyeing. Wash your hands, Cliff. Wash your hands. Your hands are disgusting. Keep it away from this nice jacket. But yeah, come on, guys. We'll get there. It's one of our goals. Let's get us there.
It is. And let's not forget, too. I mean, I know it's summertime, and the last thing you probably were thinking about is a jacket with this bloody hot weather. But I'll tell you what, folks, once October, November rolls around, you're going to appreciate having that beautiful retro jacket. It is nice. It keeps you warm. It's beautiful. Did I mention it's nice? It's a great jacket. So get on there. Go onto YouTube. Look for the Alouettes Flight Deck. Smash that subscribe button. Tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell your family, tell everybody to go check out the Alouettes Flight Deck on YouTube and become a subscriber today.
Yes, sir. And also, don't forget that if you want to have some merch to rep the podcast, all you have to do is go over to teespring.com/stores/AlsFlightDeck. And hey, join the flight crew. Show everybody. That's all I got to do, bud.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start right away. At least we'll get this out of the way. Cliff and I were supposed to go to the game this week, as we had mentioned.
This past week, you mean?
Sorry, yeah. But do I dare say, this seems weird to say, luckily we found out something before we both got in the car on Thursday.
I'll say luckily just because I would feel absolutely awful if what had happened to me ended up happening to you, and it was just a simple matter of ignorance. So, yes, unfortunately, Thursday morning, game day, I ended up testing positive for COVID-19, which threw a complete monkey wrench into all of our plans because, yes, Tim and I were going to head down to Ottawa in the afternoon to go, support the Alouettes and check them out against the Ottawa Red Blacks. But I got the positive test, and yeah, that pretty much did it right there. So I told Tim, I said, pal, I'm really sorry. I do not want to get in a car with you and get you sick. And we're not going to this game, unfortunately. So yeah. It's a bummer. I mean, like I said, we want to support the team as much as we can. Yes, we make it to all the home games. We try to if we can get on the road and support the team as well, we'll certainly do that. Ottawa's not that far from Montreal. So, it would have made perfect sense to go. But as soon as you get that positive test, you're like, oh, that sucks. Mm-hmm. So we end up watching the game at home instead.
Exactly.
Separately.
Yeah, we really didn't want to go down that rabbit hole in any way, shape, or form, did we? No. I mean, the main thing is, I'm sure the fans are wondering, how are you doing, Cliff?
I am doing better. I am, still feeling some of the effects, but for the most part, I'm definitely feeling a lot better than I was Thursday and Friday of last week when it had pretty much reared its ugly head and really got into you. Like, I was bummed out about missing the game, but also just that feeling of, it's not a joke, folks. I mean, listen, if you think it's just a cold, I've had colds and they haven't lasted long like this. Like, I mean, I was still feeling the effects of it for 3, 4, 5 days. I mean, it's even now, like I wouldn't be surprised if I launch into a coughing fit. It's just the way it is. I'm not trying to scare anybody or trying to, stand on a soapbox and talk about what I think it should be and all that. But I mean, I'm very thankful that I, got my vaccines. I did the things that we were supposed to do. Like, I mean, we took every precaution possible. it still happened. Yeah, of course it's still going to happen. It's just, luck of the draw, unfortunately. It is what it is. It's over. Well, I hope it's over with now, and I feel like I'm on the road to recovery, and I'm just, as disappointed as I am to miss out on going to Ottawa to see the game, at least we can stay home, stay safe, and just, folks, make sure you get yourselves. If this happens to you, make sure you take care of yourself, take care of the people around you, and just be as safe as possible.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can imagine how much of how much wringing of the hands we would have done. How much? I mean, the game itself. I mean, yes, the Alouettes won. It was a very entertaining game to say the least, but it wasn't perfect in any way, shape, or form, because there are still quite a few things that the Alouettes really need to do in order to be you want to be perfect each week, and the Alouettes were not perfect this week at all, no matter if they got the W or not.
Yeah, I would even go so far as to say it's not so much that Montreal won as Ottawa lost, because there was just so many errors, so many things that did go wrong for both teams. A lot of things went right for both teams. Let's not cast any aspersions otherwise. But I mean, this was one of those games you're just like, it was like a tennis match, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it really felt like whoever had the ball last was who was going to win the game. It was
very close. It was very close. Yeah, it was that it was going to be that way. But I mean, again, we're looking at it as the final score is 40-33. A lot equated that, that score itself. And I mean, we're going to start right off by giving credit where credit is due. Don't know if people are going to be gasping over just because, they've heard how we've been for most of the year. But Trevor Harris had a good game.
He really did.
He stepped up. It looks like some things have been getting to gel a little bit more. I mean, was it almost 400? It was 427 total yards of offense, and 341 by Trevor alone. So, we are going to, we've been very critical. We would be very critical even if it was Vernon Adams, whether it would be Dominic Davis, whether it be Davis Alexander as our starter.
Even if we made a trade and got another quarterback and they turn in stinkers like we've seen over the past couple of weeks, we'd be just as critical. It really doesn't matter who the quarterback is. At the end of the day, if you're the starting quarterback, you have to be able to step up and play. And there's a couple games where myself and Tim, we just did not feel Trevor Harris was doing that. He was putting together some stats. He was, as I said, padding his stats, which, that's fine. That makes you look good, sure. But at the end of the day, it's wins and losses that matter. And there have been more losses than wins over the past couple of weeks. But Trevor Harris, he did the thing. He stepped up. He made plays happen. The Alouettes got into the red zone. They scored touchdowns, like honest to goodness touchdowns. Now, mind you, that a lot of those there's at least 3 goal line touchdowns by Dominic Davis. So he technically gets the credit for that. But Trevor Harris put them in the scoring position to be able to do so. So I will give props. I will give credit where credit is due. And I will say he did play a very solid game. The first quarter was typical Trevor Harris, I have to say. But it's almost like once the second quarter hit, like, okay, he got it figured out. Like it's almost like he needed to get like the lay of the land, if you will.
Right.
And once he did, he started finding his receivers. He made use of the ground game. Like he moved the ball extremely well. I will give credit where credit's due. And he did a very good job of giving the Alouettes opportunities to score touchdowns, which they desperately needed to do.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, as I said, I'm trying to check the real stats. I'm trying to find out. Trying to check the stats here and trying to find out when Trevor had I don't think, is this his best game ever as an Al?
I would say so.
I think so. And
if you're talking like statistically and just the fact that he won the game. He's not the reason they won the game, but he played a very big part in why the Alouettes have their second victory of the year, which that in and of itself is kind of depressing when you think about it. Yeah, the Alouettes are currently 2-4.
Right.
And that's good enough for second place in the CFL least.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, what else can we say? I mean, he was it was 31, 25 of 31. Sorry, 31. I know I was right before. 25
31.
Yeah, 25 of 31, 341 yards, no interceptions.
That's key.
And 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's an 80% clip. That's almost an 81% percentage completion rate.
You know what? That was the Trevor Harris that I'm pretty sure Danny Machocha thought he was trading for last year.
Was this the Trevor Harris that decimated the Owls in the 2019 semifinal?
That would be the one. I think that was the Trevor Harris who was in Ottawa this past Thursday. Mm-hmm. And great. If like I said, if that's the Trevor Harris that we end up signing, then fine. Like, I got no problem with that. It was this other Trevor Harris that's giving us less than desirable results, but people still think it's the original Trevor Harris. So now it's almost like, will the real Slim Shady please stand up? Like, will the real Trevor Harris please stand up?
Please stand up. Please stand up. Please stand up. You had to finish it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, you're going to leave it hanging? How dare you? Hershey Mayala, 104 yards, 5 targets, 5 receptions. Buttes, Reggie White Jr. just 1 yard short of 100 yards, 5 receptions. Jake Winicky, 48 yards, 5 receptions. KJG, by the way, Kaon Julian Grant, for those of you, I know I'm abbreviating, but I think we should start calling him KJG. I think sounds pretty cool.
That's fine.
Yeah. 40 yards on 3 receptions. And then Eugene, do you call it an off day? 4 receptions, only 28 yards, but still, he had a touchdown, and so did Hershey. So,
and let me tell you that Hershey's longest reception, 69 yards. First of all, nice.
Yeah, beards.
But that was a beautiful throw by Trevor. I once again just found the connection, and it worked. I thought Hershey was going to waltz into the end zone, but not quite. But he did make up for it later. He got a tutty afterwards. So he really stepped up big time. Hershey Mayala. He looks sensational. Like we talked with him earlier this year, and you just knew I've always said he's always had the potential, but not necessarily the opportunity to show it. And I think this past Thursday, he finally had the opportunity to show it, and he made the most of it because he looked outstanding.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, you can hear that interview. It's back in the archives over at AlouettesFlightdeck.ca. Mm-hmm. Thoughts on the running game? I mean, other than another, again, with shades of when Jeshwin came in for William Stanback in game 1, 79 yards, still averaging 11.3 yards, but it was only on 7 carries. That longest clip was for 55 yards. Other than that, only 24 more yards for the rest of the game. Was it because would you say that the passing game was going so well that they didn't use him a little bit more than they did? I mean, Fletcher got a couple of touches. Trevor actually had one. Dominic Davis, obviously, because he had all those rushing touchdowns. Chandler Worthy had a very surprise run. I didn't see that one coming. But what are your thoughts on the running game?
Well, I think it really did come down to once Trevor got into the groove and was able to start connecting with his receivers. I think a lot of it was, you want to mix things up as much as possible, and they just didn't get a chance to get the ground game going as much. But when they did get it going, again, with Jeshwin Entry, he's dude's a train. I mean, he give him a chance, he will make things happen. And credit to the O-line, because they created a couple of really nice holes for him, especially too if you're able to waltz for 55 yards. You're doing something right. So, I mean, I would like to see a little bit more of the ground game happening. But again, once you're in the red zone and you get those goal line stands, I mean, you're not going to turn around and give it to your running back just to pad his stats. I mean, you're going to let Dominique Davis and his 6'5" frame push across the 1 yard line and get that touchdown. So in that sense, I'm not necessarily mad that they didn't rely more on the ground game, because they were doing everything else properly for the most part when it came to offense. It was, for the most part, a very good game called by Anthony Calvillo. He seems to have found what's working. He and Trevor Harris seem to have found what's working best for them, because I think the attack was a little bit beige to start. Like the past couple of games, it's been kind of, I'll say mediocre. Because, I mean, had a couple of nice things, but for the most part, couldn't really get anything going. But it seemed like they finally found what works for both of them. Like it's almost like AC knew, okay, I'm going to call this, and this for Trevor because I know he can make it work. And sure enough, he did. He made it work.
Right.
As I said, there's been too many opportunities where Trevor Harris will get you into the red zone, and then you're settling for field goals. That wasn't happening in Ottawa last week. There was honest to goodness touchdowns being scored. I'm saying this is what I said. You have to score touchdowns. You're not going to beat teams just with field goals. I mean, I'm not saying Ottawa's a terrible team, but they're not. I still don't think they're as bad as their record indicates. Kind of like Montreal, a couple bounces here and there, and they could be a totally different team record-wise. But you still have to execute. And by and large, Trevor Harris was able to get the team into the red zone. Anthony Calvillo called the right plays in order to make that happen, and then we get touchdowns. Even if they're rushing touchdown, goal line touchdowns, so what? A touchdown is a touchdown.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take it all day, every day.
Yeah, exactly. And once again, second week in a row, the Alouettes' second down conversions, so while still outdone slightly by the Red Blacks, still was at 59%, 13 to 22. So that's to me, that's a huge stat that I think people really overlook in the CFL. If you're going to do well, if your second down conversions are anywhere between the 55 to 60% range for the game.
Not to mention, too, you're scoring points. The past two games, the Alouettes have put up 71 points. Mm-hmm. I mean, and came very, very close to having two victories. But, I mean, you got to score points in this league. That's really what it comes down to. So now if Anthony Calvillo finally has that magic formula that's finally working, that finally is going to make Trevor Harris be that quarterback that was in 2019 that carved up the Alouettes in the Eastern semifinal. If you found the way to make him that quarterback again, awesome. That's great. That's what we want to see. We want to see winning football. We want to see the starting quarterback come in and play well. And if that's what you have to do to make him play well, so be it. I'm not opposed to that at all.
Yeah.
I do take umbrage with one thing, though, I have to say, when it comes to AC. And, I love AC.
Yeah,
I really, truly do. As a quarterback, as a human being, as a coach, what have you, he is 100% my guy in that sense. I do take umbrage with one particular thing that happened. I believe it was in the third quarter. The Alouettes were driving down the field, and for whatever reason, he decides to insert Vernon Adams into the game at quarterback to try a draw play, and it didn't work in the sense that VA took the snap and met with Ottawa Red Blacks helmet that popped the ball loose and ended up turning the ball over. And again, because we were at the game, you were watching on TV, you saw AC's reaction. Like, he was dropping F-bombs. Like, he was pissed off that the play didn't work.
Yeah.
And my only thing is, like, well, in fairness, you've got Vernon Adams as a field goal holder at this point. You're paying this guy $500,000 to hold the field goals for David Cote. I get trying to catch the Red Blacks snapping in some sense, but you sent Vernon in colder than the other side of the pillow, and you're surprised that this happened? Like, if you were going to try to disrupt the momentum that Trevor was building at that point, you may as well just go with Dominique Davis for that play, and it could have been a little bit different. I mean, to me, I don't understand what it was. Was it just trying to flex? Was it really just trying to catch Ottawa napping? It was a very bizarre play call, and just
we also don't know what the call. We also don't know what the call was, though.
Well,
to be fair, but continue. I'm sorry, continue.
No, it's just I didn't like the fact that Anthony got so pissed off about it. Like, it almost felt like he was pissed off at Vernon for screwing up, and I really hope that's not the case, because you send Vernon in to do this. Like, I mean, he's just not pretty much part of the offense at this point, unless Trevor Harris gets hurt, and then you throw him in there, and then you're going to get mad at him for this. Like, yeah, what the hell? I mean, like, you kind of hung him out to dry, as far as I'm concerned. So I mean, like, that would be the one blemish I would say this past Thursday. Otherwise, AC called what I think was a very good game offensively. Like, this wasn't the 20. When was the original? When was the OC originally? Was it 2016, 2015? 2015, 2016.
Yes, this wasn't the 2015, 2016 AC in any way, shape, or form.
No, not at all. I think he's learned considerably with his time with the Carabin, and now given this opportunity to see what he can do in this offense. And again, he's making it work for Trevor, which someone had to. I mean, I really think the Kahari Jones playbook was obviously designed more for a quarterback like Vernon Adams or to a lesser extent Dominique Davis, and not necessarily for Trevor Harris. So now if AC is calling plays, they're a little bit more along the styles of Trevor Harris. He's a little bit more of a pocket passer. He's not exactly the most mobile quarterback, although I think he did have one rush, if I'm not mistaken, and it looked okay doing that. Yeah. But it's not his forte, though, compared to Vernon Adams or to a lesser extent Dominique Davis. You got to work with your quarterback and work to their strengths. And to his credit, they found a way to make it work. And like I said, if this was the magic formula, if this was the right combination of plays in order to make Trevor Harris the quarterback that everybody expects him to be, then, bravo. Then you should be very excited about that, Alouettes fans. And like I said, we've been very critical of Trevor for his play. Maybe it was just a simple matter of not being given the right plays to work with. And if that's all it takes, and if this is now the start of Trevor Harris, the, dominant quarterback that was in 2019 for in the playoffs, then great. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with more of that. Let's just hope this wasn't just a one-off fluke against Ottawa for any number of reasons.
We'll find out next week. The Alouettes were 5 of 6 in the red zone. It's 2 straight weeks that they've had. They only have they blew one opportunity in the red zone. Those are the good. Now, before we talk about the bad, were there any pluses that you saw on the defensive side of the ball? I mean, yes, we're giving all the love to the O line, to the offense and to the O line, but I mean, it's looking at the defense. I mean, they gave almost 500 total yards of offense, but there's still to be some positives, right?
Let's start with Najee Murray, who had a hellacious hit on Caleb Evans that knocked the ball loose for Micah Awe to nearly score his first defensive touchdown.
So close.
So close. He was rumbling, too. You could tell. He was so close. And then Caleb Evans just managed to clear himself up enough and just tackle him at the one. Like, oh, man.
Yeah.
So close for Micah, but... how excited would he have been able to do that in front of his? I think he still has quite a few fans from Ottawa. Like his first game back, back against Ottawa, to be able to score a defensive touchdown like that would have been amazing, but it just wasn't in the cards. But that was a great effort right there. Mike Jones is so good. I'm so good at corner. He made Darvin Adams work for everything that he got. Like Darvin Adams played a fantastic game at receiver for the Red Blacks, but he had to work for it because Mike Jones was all over him like a fat kid on a Smartie. He made him work. So Mike Jones, like whatever they're paying this guy, it's not enough because this was quite the free agent signing that Danny Machocha made. Like this guy came as advertised.
Yeah,
like he's just been an absolute beast out there. As far as defense goes, I mean, like for the most part, like the defensive line, they played a pretty solid game.
Yeah, but, two sacks, which is nice. Get back on the scoreboard there for sacks.
Yeah, there was a lot of action there. So, I mean, listen, like there was definitely some bright spots. Then there were some not so bright spots with the defense, which I guess will lead us into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's well. First, we gotta say one bad spot, which I don't know if you have an update yet, because I know I spoke to you about it originally. One of the bad things too was losing first overall draft pick Tyrell Richards to what seemed you really couldn't tell what type of knee injury it was, but it was bad enough that he was placed in the 6th game. I don't know if you were able to get any more information on what it was, if it is a tear or if it needs surgery. I mean, if it's a 6th game, it's got to be bad. Bad
enough, anyways. So
yeah.
No, I haven't. I personally haven't heard anything yet, but all I can do is just hope for the best for him because he was. You could tell he was ready to come into his own. Like you could tell he was ready to make some noise happen, and both him and Brian Harlemana, just outstanding together. Like those two play off each other so well. Like they trade in and out on the in the linebacking core, and just they're beasts. It's so exciting to see what these guys can do, knowing full well they're not even in their mid-20s, like they're in their early 20s, and they're still the ceiling is so high for both of them.
Yeah,
and I'm really excited to see how their career is going to progress. to see them at this level already is phenomenal. And knowing that it's only going to get better from here on out, my God, that's exciting to me.
Yeah. By the way, if Sean Jameson can come back quickly, come on, Tyrell. Come on back, maybe. Come on.
Well, that's it. So, I mean, we get Sean Jameson back. He was on the 6th game, ended up only missing 3 games. So here's hoping that Tyrell Richards has that same luck and he comes back stronger than ever.
Yep. Again, and we're talking, we're leading to the bad here for some defense. I mean, overall, again, over 100 yards in penalties. Again, it really needs to stop. They were doing well early in the year, and again, DPIs were occurring. We got lucky with two penalties, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes here. But yeah, overall, I mean, it's just frustrating. It just seems to be that the players that are having these penalties called against them, it's a continuous thing, and they're in the news for the exact same thing. It just seems to be that even with the addition of Adarius Pickett last week, it just didn't seem to work for whatever reason, Cliff. I really don't know what to say. I mean, what is up with Wes Sutton?
Both Wesley Sutton and Marc-Antoine Decoy.
Yes.
I mean, when they're on, I will say, when they are on their game, they are phenomenal players. They really, truly are. They are athletes, and they are spectacular. But when they make mistakes, oh boy, do they make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And just do not look like they belong on the field, quite frankly. I mean, Sutton was burned like toast against Edmonton. And same stuff again against Ottawa. Like, just dumb penalties. Like, just come on. Like, it's so frustrating. And the inability of these guys to wrap up a guy in tackling, especially Decoy. I mean, there were one of those Ottawa drives late in the 4th quarter. I mean, for crying out loud, he's trying to tackle Jalen Acklin. Instead, it felt like he was escorting him to the end zone. Like it was like valet service. Like, can I please take your car, sir? Like, that's really what I got from the guy. Like, geez, you want to make sure he gets there okay, buddy? Like, come on. Like, you got to wrap up a guy and tackle properly. Like, none of this dragging him bullshit. Like, I mean, come on. Especially for all the hype, for all the, accolades, that has been bestowed upon him. And yes, his interceptions this year have been fantastic, Decoy, but just the basic stuff seems to be escaping him at this moment. And I wonder if a lot of stuff is just getting kind of swept under the rug because, he's a former Carabin, and there's a whole bunch of former Carabins that are part of the coaching staff. And are they just kind of pretending not to see that, or like what? Because, I mean, quite frankly, any other player would have been benched for plays like that. Yeah. And obviously Decoy and Sutton are not being benched this week. They're listed as starters once again. So I don't know if that if the defensive staff was pissed off about that, then I guess not so much, or maybe they just felt there was no other way to possibly replace those two. But I'm telling you right now, they really got to get their act together. I mean, when they play great, absolutely, they are two of the highlights, if you will, in the secondary. But when you see like egregious errors like that, and just poor judgment, and just like almost like a lack of football knowledge even. And I don't want to say that because these guys, obviously, they're professional football players. They know what they're doing. But at the same time, like, errors like this are just inexcusable. Like, they'd be inexcusable for any team. And, like, you just can't have that. So
no,
I don't know if that's I sincerely hope when they looked at the film, like, I hope they're embarrassed. I hope they realize, I can't be doing this. This is unacceptable. Yeah. And I hope the coaches let them know that this is unacceptable, because if you do that against Hamilton, and let's not forget, we got back-to-back against Winnipeg in a couple of weeks.
Boy, I'm already saying it now.
They're going to eat you alive if you play like that. I can promise you right now, you can't. This like two-hand touch that you think you're playing isn't going to work against the Bombers. I can tell you that right now. And to a lesser extent, it won't work against the Tiger Cats either.
7 of the 8 accepted penalties, Cliff, were against the defense. So special teams shored up their issues. Not a single one on the offense.
Yes, penalty-wise, special teams did their job. But Chandler Worthy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now it could have been worse.
Really?
It could. Well, we saw those two penalties that were called and then reversed by the command center, which is what I wanted to talk about. Obviously the Alouettes had, Red Blacks were driving. And I think this just showed, again, the Owls gave up almost 500 yards of total offense.
Mm-hmm.
Red Blacks were driving, and they're literally they're like no huddle back to back to back to back to back plays. They should have, and Owls fans will remember this too. It happens. It's happened many a time in since the Owls have been back in Montreal, where a player, you think it's a sure thing touchdown, and nope. As
I said, Darvin Adams was playing a pretty phenomenal game for Ottawa.
Yeah.
And that his drop in the end zone was almost unforgivable. I mean, 9 times out of 10, he makes that catch in his sleep. But that just happened to be the 10th time, thankfully for Alouettes fans, because that, yeah.
Yeah, I know. The game could have been tied, gone into overtime, yada, yada. But in my opinion, now, both penalties were against the same player that were overturned. I'm trying to remember because they're not listed in the stats, obviously, because they weren't penalties.
No, one was against Mike Moore, and one was against I want to say Avery Ellis, but I think one was Ellis or Pickett.
Right, one was roughing, and the other one was the other one considered roughing too?
Well, they were both considered unnecessary roughness because they were pretty high.
Yes, yeah. And this is my thought on this, and maybe people disagree with me. I don't know what you think, Cliff, but it was clear to anybody, not necessarily Alouette fans, but it was clear that at that time of the game, with them driving, the Owls' defense was completely gassed. Completely.
Mm-hmm.
If it had not been for the command center stepping in and correcting these errors, these penalties, then I think the Owls would have lost. These two what would we call them? Reversals.
Reviewable.
Yeah, reversals gave the Owls gave the Owls defense 2 free timeouts. In my opinion.
Yeah. Or at the very least, gave them a chance to catch their breath. Because,
exactly.
Yeah, they were sucking wind towards the end for sure.
I think if it wasn't for those two things, obviously the penalties would have been different, et cetera. I think the Owls would have, Ottawa would have tied the game and it would have been over. It would have gone to overtime.
Yeah.
So,
let's not forget too, Ottawa managed to, remember when the Ottawa went for 2 last November to beat the Alouettes at home? They could have done that too. And again, when the defense is, as you said, they were gassed. I mean, that's when you pull out your trick play and you figure something out to, they could have taken the lead at that point too, with maybe even less than 30 seconds left on the clock. And, yeah.
Well, also to remind people too, by the way, that the Pickett PI with under 2 minutes left also didn't help either. I mean, that was 31 yards also.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That led to another one of the reversals. But it seems that fans are giving they're giving the business to the CFL, to the command center, to the referees. How can't they get this right the first time? The CFL's the command center shouldn't be stepping in. Well, my thought is that is the reasoning for having your spotters. That's what the command center has done. Maybe not in this case where it's literally it could have cost a team a tying touchdown. But when you saw the backlash, I guess you could say, from some fans on social media, what were your thoughts, Cliff?
Oh, it's very easily to say, like, when it's against your team, you think everybody's against you. You think there's conspiracy, and when it goes in your favor, then you're usually pretty quiet. So, I can understand the backlash, especially from Ottawa fans. They probably felt that the league, for whatever reason, wanted to keep the Red Blacks winless. I don't believe that for a second. I think if anything, they would have wanted to give Ottawa a win just to send the fans home happy. If you're going to start playing that game, but it's not like that. No. It really truly was a matter of correcting these mistakes. And the fact that these mistakes were made does make you kind of question, the officials as far as what they're seeing on the field. Like, I know when it comes to the action, everything happens so fast. You have literally a split second to make a decision whether you think a tackle is too high or what happened. I mean, like, these were not, as far as I'm concerned, clear penalties.
No, and to be honest, to me, Cliff, one of the two, I was not sure on one of the two. One, I was almost certain it wasn't a high tackle. The other one, I was not 100% certain about until I saw the replay.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's the thing, and that's kind of the whole point of video replay, is to kind of make you slow down and take a second look at it, just to really confirm if this really was what it was. And obviously the command center saw that these were not penalties at all. So, it's especially too, and you wouldn't want the game to come down to, you want it to come down to the players essentially, but at the same time, you want justice.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what it was. Like, if the Alouettes didn't commit any crimes, then say so. If they caused a penalty, then absolutely give them a penalty. They earned it. But if they didn't earn a penalty, then you take it away. You pick up the flag. That's really what it came down to, was correcting what were two glaring mistakes. I mean, I understand why the flag was thrown on the first glance, but thanks to the advancement of video replay, you were able to see that, okay, this is not a penalty. It's close. I mean, it was a little high, but it was well within the rules as far as tackling goes. So this is not a penalty. And yes, one can make the argument that it gave the Alouettes a chance to catch their breath and get ready for the Red Blacks for whatever they had up their sleeve. But by that same token, it also gave the Red Blacks a chance to ensure that the plays that they're going to call are what's going to get them into the end zone.
Exactly.
And sure enough, when Caleb Evans threw that pass to Darvin Adams, that 9 times out of 10, that's a touchdown. It just happens to be that one time, one time where, I don't know if the ball was greasy or just, he squeezed his hands too quickly or what. But I mean, the fact that he dropped it, even I'm like, are you serious?
I wish too.
What is one of the better receivers of the league?
Yeah.
He muffed it. Oof. Like that.
Yeah. It looked like I think he had partial, then it hit hands went off the knees, or hands hit the knees, or ball. Anyways, Yeah,
it happens. It happens to the best receivers. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, like I said, 9 times out of 10, he makes that catch, and it's a whole different ball game. But when they really needed him to make that catch, he didn't. That's football, folks.
Exactly. Again, Owls came away with the win, 2-4 currently on the season. We'll be talking about their matchup versus, it's funny, the 1-5 Hamilton Tiger Cats. But we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. But there is still some news we want to at least talk about before we get to that. And a couple of things that the team has been teasing and stuff like that. Certain things that pop up on social media. But, it's... do we dare say it is something that has really garnered a lot of talk, a lot of chatter. The Owls finally, because we've been teasing it for the last couple of weeks, but the Alouettes finally unveiled what seems to be 1.3 kilos of Poutine in a full-size replica helmet.
Mm-hmm.
They will be available starting at the next home game versus the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Very limited, a la the Alouettes beer.
Yeah, basically while supplies last.
First thing, we still don't know how much it's going to cost. Second of all, I'm a guy who's like puts in. I like usually plain. But this should be interesting. It's going to have pulled pork. Did I read that it's going to be a special sauce?
Well, it's kind of like a whiskey maple sauce.
Yeah.
And onions, which I'm hoping are caramelized, because raw onions and a Poutine would be disgusting.
I agree with you on that one. Then obviously fries and cheese curds. And by looks of things, and I'm guessing, this was not said for sure, but I'm guessing that all of this the Poutine is going to be produced by La Cage. That's what it looks like.
Would make sense, because that is one of their sponsors, and I believe they are the food vendors for the Montreal Alouettes.
Oh, that might make it even more perfect, Cliff, because if I'm not mistaken, aren't they on our side of the stadium?
I believe so.
Ooh, baby. But we still don't know. But still, don't know the price. I guessed it would probably be about $40.
Yeah, considering you're basically taking home what looks to be or it's a replica, but basically a full-size helmet.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that, with 1.2 or 1.3 kilograms of Poutine, I mean, that's...
Oh, my Lord.
I think $40 is probably the starting price, and
yeah. I would say it'll be anywhere between $40 and $50.
Mm-hmm.
I think, in my opinion.
And again, you've got a number of reasons why this is going to work, because I mean, it's first of all, it's a conversation starter, because I mean, you're eating poutine out of a football helmet.
By the way, wasn't it Ducois at the end of the sizzle reel where he actually put it on his head?
I think so, yeah. So I mean, it's a fully functional helmet.
Well, you had his bun, his man bun sticking out the top, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
So obviously, needless to say, Cliff and I will be there early, and stay tuned for some video for that. That's going to be a given.
I think, yeah. You know what, folks? If that doesn't entice you to subscribe to YouTube, because I could definitely see us doing a live stream. If we get there early enough, get ourselves set up with this Poutine helmet, to do an actual taste test, I think we can make this happen on YouTube. So again, folks, go subscribe to the Alouettes Flightdeck channel.
Yes.
And you just might see.
Hit the notifications. You'll know when it goes live. I think, even though we're under 100, I think it still does the same thing.
It'll do that. It should do that. So yeah, do that, folks. And listen, if that's what it's going to take, we'll get the helmet. We'll both enjoy the poutine inside. We'll do a little live stream. We'll do a little something. You know, we'll do that for you guys. Absolutely, we'll do that.
This will be interesting, because this seems to be as big as I don't want to call it a leak, because it's not a leak, but the first look of the new Turf Traditions line, which is going to be rolling out across the CFL. They're going to have a whole campaign starting in August. So a little bit seems to be a jumping of the gun by the Alouettes boutique, but the social media post that I put out after it was launched, and it was actually on their website, it's garnered, it's gone, I don't want to say it's gone viral, because there's different, you know what I mean, but it's gained traction. It's gained traction.
Yeah, let's say that. It's gained traction, sure. But
I know you're not a big hat guy.
I'm really not.
But if Brandon London says he wants one, former Alouette Brandon London says he wants one.
Friend of the show, Brandon London.
Friend of the pod. But overall, again, what do you? These are unique. I like these things. I'm just praying, because these will come in caps, T-shirts, and hoodies. From what I heard, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the Owls will order all three, but I'm hoping that they have a hat that's not a flat brim. I'm not a flat brim type of guy. But you got to admit, the aesthetic. I'm trying to remember something like this has something like this ever been done? And people, please at me on Twitter if I'm wrong here. But I don't remember them doing something like this in the NFL. The ones I do remember for the NFL specifically, I don't know if you do, Cliff, is where they made the caps look like a helmet, where the striping pattern was put along the top and then the logos were on the side.
I do remember those, yes.
But I don't remember something like this. A lot of people are saying it looks like Labatt 50. It's same colors.
Yes.
Same colors. But still, I was skeptical when I heard that the Owls are going to be doing the French horn again this year, because they did them last year.
Right.
But I'm quite impressed. I'm quite impressed. So I want to see the rest. I want to see the rest of the lines, right? All the other teams.
Yeah, I definitely. When I see the French horn logo, I really like it. I really think it is such a cool look, like from back in the day, and the fact that they're going to use that as part of the retro lineup is awesome to me. Like I said, I'm not a hat guy, but I can definitely appreciate the aesthetic of this hat. It definitely looks really cool. Like this is something you could definitely rock around the city, and
you'll get looks, baby. You'll get looks.
You will, absolutely, you will. I mean, it looks cool because again, people dig retro stuff, and this has that real retro look to it. Like this looks like you could have pulled this out of your grandfather's closet, and decided to wear it for yourself. Like that's the kind of look it has, but still brand spanking new. I mean, it looks sharp, and as I said, that logo just looks great on almost anything. So I'm really curious to see how the rest of the lineup looks for the Turf Traditions line. When it comes out later in August. I'm really curious to see how the rest of it looks, because as I said, this logo is just so cool, and seeing it on retro gear like that, just awesome. Like that hat, still not a hat guy. I don't think I'll ever be a hat guy, but I can appreciate when something looks good, and that hat looks really good.
Yeah, and I know how you are, because I with the last set of merchandise for the Alouettes with the French horn logo with the shirts, I know you're a fan of those, and once we see what the shirts and stuff look like, I'm sure you'll be like, here, take my money. So
pretty much, yeah. I'm sure that my credit card will just jump out of my pocket and just like, yeah, go ahead, yeah, ring me up a whole bunch of those.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, and don't forget my 20%.
Hey, season ticket holder bonus.
There you go, baby. Last thing that at least I had noticed, and it's something I should have posted, I guess, a few weeks ago since the last home game, but kind of a minor thing, and it's something, was it you or was it our friend Carl from Baltimore who pointed this out the last time that we were there at the stadium, about the new Alouettes banners, Grey Cup banners that they have quietly unveiled this year. Was it you or was it Carl? I can't remember.
Actually, it was you.
Oh, it was me who noticed them. Duh. Well,
you noticed and asked if we noticed anything different. I'm like, yeah, that does look different, actually.
Okay. Well, I did confirm it, obviously, and if you go back and check me out on social, the Alouettes unveiled their Grey Cup banners for the third time since 2011. So I like the look. I guess the second set were so unforgettable with the rebranding and stuff like that, the ones they used in 2019 and 2021, Cliff, that these new ones are just, they're fine. They go well with the current setup that we have here with the team.
Yeah, and also too, they still use the logos that are relevant to the team of that era that won the cup. So that's
exactly,
which again is perfect for giving that nod to history. I'm always a big fan of that. So the fact that they've, I guess, updated, I guess for lack of a better term, the banners.
Yeah.
Put their current spin on it, but at the same time still paying a nod to history and showing that look. I mean, it's, I'm not mad at it at all. I think it looks really, really sharp.
Yeah, I do too. Remember, people before, I think it was before 2011, they had them on the years on the wall. I guess the wall of names. I'm trying to think what to call it.
I was going to say the Ring of Honor. But
it's up at the Ring of Honor. Yeah, but it changed, obviously. So
right.
But my question still to the Alouettes organization is, where are the old ones and where can we get one?
Yeah, I mean, unless you're saving them for a locker room sale, in which case.
Oh, yeah, but where are the other ones? Where are the ones from the ones that they retired in 2019? I want to see. I actually like those.
Yeah, those were pretty sharp.
I would take one from 74 or 77 or 70 or 2002 or
9, 10. Just wrap them all up.
And 49. Can't forget 49.
I mean, at this point, let's just take them all and just
sure. Be a very weird wallpaper, but it might work. I guess.
Make it work.
I don't know. Could work. Anything this week that caught your eye at all, Cliff? Before we head into the preview of the game versus the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Not a whole lot transactions wise, other than as we've mentioned, Sean Jameson is now off the 6-game list and back in the lineup, which is absolutely great.
Yeah.
Considering he had a pretty nasty knee injury that many people thought might be the end of his season. And here we are 3 games later and he's back. So that's
how many weeks
news.
Though was it? How many weeks? Because we had to throw in at least one bye week, wasn't it?
One bye week. And I think there's that bit of a gap between games as well. I think between both of the Saskatchewan games, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So you factor in it was probably, I think it was close to the 5 weeks, maybe even 6.
Yeah, I know.
But by and large, it doesn't go by a week. It goes by a game. So, I mean, he did truly only miss 3 games.
That's true.
Just knowing that he's back at center for the Alouettes definitely helps because, I mean, David Brown's been doing a bang-up job as far as I'm concerned at center in his absence. But, I mean, Sean Jameson is truly one of the better centers in this league. And having him back in the lineup and healthy, ready to go is definitely a good thing.
Yeah, he's good as a general as Brian Chu was. Even Christian Matt when he had to step in too. So it's nice to have him back at center.
And it's funny, a lot of people are always surprised that Christian Matt is never asked to step in at center, considering he did a very good job of it in relief. Sort of that transition period between Luc Berger-Jardin and I guess now Sean Jameson.
Yeah.
Like Christian Matt did a great job, especially working with Vernon Adams in 2019 at center. But no, now he's back at guard and, still playing extremely well. So, and also too, as far as transactions go, the Alouettes released Antonio Simmons.
Yeah.
After reacquiring him from the Edmonton Elks as part of the Trevor Harris deal of last season. It was kind of funny to see now both after. Actually, well, he didn't reacquire. Well,
no, I was about to say
they signed. They signed him.
He was released. He was released by the Elks.
Yeah, he was released by the Elks. You're absolutely right. So it's kind of funny to see both Trevor Harris and Antonio Simmons on the same team, considering that they were traded for one another last year. But especially now with Brock Gowanlock back in the lineup.
Yep.
And Avery Ellis, Mondo Sewell, Mike Moore, Michael Wayfield, those guys are stepping up in a big way as far as I'm concerned. Nick Usher, too, has just been a beast. And so, unfortunately, Simmons is the odd man out. I think he may have been offered a practice roster spot and probably said, nah, I know I can play, so I'll take my chances elsewhere. And sure enough, who does he end up with? The Ottawa Red Blacks.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. If you get yourself kind of settled a little bit in Montreal, which is I think Simmons did actually get himself settled a bit in Montreal. So going to Ottawa is not that far. So.
Wow, that must have. When was that announced? Because officially, Simmons was released by the Owls on the 23rd, officially, according to the league.
Yeah, it was actually they announced it today that he had signed with the Red Blacks.
That's why. Okay, so it's okay. That's why. It was late in the day.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why. Okay, that's why I said on the transactions. By the way, I understand that every team puts out their transactions and stuff like that, but sometimes you have teams that don't really promote them in a way. The CFL's transaction page, just to let everybody know, is a great wealth of information. That's where usually Cliff and I get the information that X player has been signed or X players on this or that and the other. So
yeah, whether they've been signed, released, traded, even just going from practice roster to active roster, that gets noted as well, or even to transfer to injured list. I mean, it is definitely a great tool. You can search by team, you can search by transactions, by date, all that good stuff. It's, as Tim said, it's definitely a good tool to help you keep track of the goings on of the league and also the Alouettes.
Exactly. And since it's segue, speaking of being transferred to the injured list, it was announced earlier on Sunday that VA wasn't practicing. He was at first. Danny Mac was calling it a conditioning day, it got annoying hearing that 3 days in a row. After hearing that, it was like that's not the case, because VA was having an issue with his elbow. VA was placed on the one game. So I think anybody who out there is trying to make something out of nothing, in my opinion, it was picked up by a lot of people that, VA's in place on the one game. Oh, he's going to get traded.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, I can give you a resounding no.
Yeah. I mean, I understand Riders fans, you're very concerned because Cody Fajardo's knee is banged up, and Edmonton, I mean, even though Taylor Cornelius played a half-decent game against the Alouettes, I guess you still don't have faith in him because he only did so-so against the Bombers. But, I mean, let's face it. I mean, the Bombers are just so good right now.
Yeah,
I
know.
Everybody's going to look so-so against him. But, I mean, once again, it just stokes that fire. Like, could we maybe trade? Could Vernon Adams be an Edmonton Elk or even a Saskatchewan Rough Rider? And, slow your roll, people. I mean,
there's a lot more to the situation than people know about. That's all I'm going to say, because just based off of confidentiality, I'm not going to go any more than say just that. But what they are reporting with him having an issue this week with his elbow is 100% legit.
Yes.
So because of that change, obviously Davis Alexander has been brought. He wasn't on the practice roster. He wasn't on the practice roster because they've been having, I don't want to say issues. They were having practice roster.
They had too many people on the practice roster.
Thank you.
There you go. Spit it out, Tim.
I was like, I try to put it in such a way. But yes, they had too many people in the practice roster. So that's why Davis Alexander was placed in the one game last week, but he's been activated. He's going to be the number 3 this week, but I would not be surprised if Dominic Davis still takes the short yardage reps.
Yeah, he'll still take the short yardage years, but it's just that if, God forbid, Trevor Harris gets hurt, the team will still go to Dominique Davis.
Correct.
And at which point, then maybe perhaps Davis Alexander will get some short yardage, or they may throw him in there just to see what's doing as far as, what he's picked up so far. So, I mean, will he see action against the Hamilton Tiger Cats? Highly unlikely.
I'm wondering if Zima's going to go back doing the holding for David Cote.
One has to wonder. I mean, obviously, as I said, VA was the field goal holder for the past couple of games, which still is a gross misuse of a talent like Vernon Adams. But again, that's neither here nor there.
Right.
In which case, then I would assume that Joseph Zima would go back to holding for David Cote's field goal attempts. Yeah. Because again, I mean, Dominique Davis, you want to keep him ready for short yardage situations. Could also use Alexander too, but I don't know if he's been taking any reps in that regards. But I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens against Hamilton tomorrow.
Yep. Dante Hatcher is still on the one game. Tavian Feaster, who's I think wasn't he just recently signed, if I'm not mistaken, within the past 2 weeks.
I think he was on the suspended list and then was added to the active roster.
Yeah, and then Chris Schluger was actually.
He's been one. He's one gamed.
Yeah, he's been one gamed. No changes. Again, no changes to the 6th game except for Tyler Richards. So yeah. Hey, by the way, anything that we talk about today, you're always able to contact us. As we mentioned, our socials a little at the beginning of the show. You can always email Cliff and myself. You can email me at tim.capper@alouettesflightdeck.ca or cliff@clifford.pine@alouettesflightdeck.ca. We always want to hear your feedback. We want to hear what you think about the show, suggestions. Who should we have on? Who should we have on as a guest? Just let us know. You can also, DM us or add us over on Twitter. So it's we always love hearing from you, the fans. We want you to have some sort of part in the show. That's what we like about it.
100%. We've said it numerous times. Like, we do this for the fans. So, I mean, we want the fans to interact with us, to give us feedback, good, bad, or other. Let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. And if you have any questions, concerns, what have you.
Yep.
There's no shortage of ways to contact us, so please do.
Yep. So the Alouettes go into Hamilton. Again, they're playing the 1-5 Hamilton Tiger Cats. Dane Evans doesn't seem to be the same Dane Evans that came in relief last year for the Tiger Cats. They are still favored. They get the home favoring. They're the usual 3 points, so they're favored by 3 points according to 5 Dimes. What are your thoughts here, Cliff? I mean, let's look at the roster first. I mean, obviously with Tyler Richards going on the 6th game, who's replacing him?
Well, that would be Tyrese Beveridge is actually going to be starting at linebacker with Brian Harlemana at the backup position, which I'm a little bit surprised to see because, again, I think Brian Harlemana has been doing an outstanding job when given the opportunity. So I assumed that he'd be starting, but no, they've moved Beveridge over to his spot.
Which I'm wondering too, by the way, just real quick, and he's an American, so, and obviously Richards is a Canadian. So I'm curious. I'm trying to find out here in the roster where they made some more changes.
Well, that's it. So, I mean, obviously the ratio is always going to come into play when it comes to things of this nature. So I guess I shouldn't be so surprised, but yeah, that's really what it came down to as far as these changes are going to be made. Personally, I think Harlemana should have been starting, but if it truly was a ratio issue and as why he's backing up, then so be it. The Alouettes will make it work. Micah Awe is going to be starting at middle linebacker. Mm-hmm. As I said, Marc-Antoine Decoy and Wesley Sutton are unscathed, despite their less than stellar performances towards the end against Ottawa. They're certainly going to be given every opportunity to redeem themselves, and here's hoping they do, because if these two guys can get their act together and play football like I expect them to, then this Alouettes defense is going to be a real problem for the Tiger Cats.
Yeah. What are your thoughts here? Because again, Dane Evans doesn't seem to be the Dane Evans that the CFL has come to know over the past season plus.
He definitely hasn't looked like the quarterback that went 15, helped the Tiger Cats go to 15-3 in 2019 and come within a hair of winning a Grey Cup. He definitely has not looked like that Dane Evans.
No.
And it's kind of funny because when Jeremiah Masoli signed with the Ottawa Red Blacks, like they pretty much put their stamp of approval on Dane Evans. Like they pretty much decided of those two guys, this is who we're going with, is with Dane Evans. And it hasn't quite paid off so far. And I don't know if it's just the pressure now, like before, if Evans started to falter, at least they can go back to Masoli and vice versa. But now Dane Evans is basically standing up on his own 2 feet. Like he's got Matthew Schultz as backup, but I don't know if he's really feel threatened by Schultz's presence. I think if anything, Schultz has done a good job of trying to help him, but he too has not really shown everything that he could, which I personally find surprising because, I mean, I think the world of Matthew Schultz, and I think this was kind of the opportunity he was looking for.
Yeah.
If, God forbid, Dane Evans was going to falter, that he could step in and help lead the Tiger Cats to victory, but that hasn't happened yet either. And I just wonder if it's just you keep going back to Dane Evans and something's not clicking right now. Like he's still a decent quarterback, but making a lot of terrible decisions as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't understand the quarterback situation there either. I mean, it's it's not really mirroring what's happening here. I mean, the Alouettes have had some problems in the past, but with the quarterbacks, but I don't know. And they're also going to be, the Tiger Cats are also going to be short-staffed this week too. A lot of the big names are not going to be available for the Tiger Cats.
Mm-hmm. Most notably, Chris Van Zyl. He's been placed on the 6-game list.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's huge right there. Like that's a big part of your O-line gone. Simone Lawrence will not be playing, despite the fact that he was taken off of the 6-game list. He will not be in the lineup.
And a lot of the players, the Owls players this week, in the post practice scrums, were talking about him. So I think they thought he was going to be playing too.
Well, that's it. That's I mean, again, when he's on his game, he is definitely a dangerous force. So I think the Alouettes will be relieved not to have to worry about him. I'm sure the O-line is going to be glad to not have to try to defend against him. I know Trevor Harris for a fact is going to be very happy not to have to worry about him. Yeah, I mean, like Hamilton, it's going to be interesting for them because they've got so much to prove right now. I mean, they've played in some pretty tough games and just found ways to lose. Really, when you think about it, kind of like the Alouettes, they just find ways to lose, and that's troublesome.
I know.
I think the one thing though that the one thing that's kind of hanging overhead just a little bit is the fact that Kahari Jones, former head coach of the Alouettes, is now a member of the Hamilton Tiger Cats as a consultant for the offense. Who knows the Alouettes better than Kahari Jones? Nobody. Yep. If you folks don't think he's not going to be spilling the tea, as they say, on the Alouettes to the Tiger Cats, you're sorely mistaken. I guarantee, even though he's not an official coach, I guarantee he has had a lot of input saying, "Yo, you gotta focus on this guy and this guy and this guy. Oh, and if this guy does this and do that, like I'm sure he's left no stone unturned when it came to exposing whatever weaknesses the Alouettes have. And best believe Hamilton right now sitting at 1-5 at home." No less. Like I don't think they've got a victory. I don't think they've won at home yet this year, if I'm not mistaken.
That's check. I do know that the Alouettes and Cats have actually split the last 8.
Oh no, sorry, they did win at home. I'm sorry, they did beat Ottawa at home.
Oh, so that's right.
My mistake. Okay, but still, like the fact that for a while you weren't winning at Tim Hortons Field. I mean, that's definitely an embarrassment for the Tiger Cats. And that with Kahari Jones basically giving away the secrets, so to speak, like. Montreal better be ready because I'm sure Kahari, like, even though he's very much taken the high road for the most part as far as his dismissal goes, I'm sure there's a little part of him is like, I think I know how to beat these guys. I'll let you know, and I'll explain to you how it's done. And like he knows. I mean, he was with his team right up until was it a month ago? He was let go.
Yeah,
and. He knows now. I mean, and Hamilton's not stupid. Like the Alouettes and the Tiger Cats play each other 3 times this year. I guarantee you that Kahari is going to have a big say in what happens in the game, not only tomorrow, but the 2 other games that are going to be following. I mean, Yeah, it's not going to be easy. No matter what kind of issues that the Tiger Cats have right now when it comes to their personnel and their inabilities to seemingly close games, they still got to feel confident going into Montreal, knowing full well they got Kahari in their back pocket with all the secrets, and Montreal's got to be ready for that. They got to show some new stuff to the Tiger Cats on Thursday.
Yeah, they do. As I mentioned, the Owls and Tiger Cats have split the last 8 regular season matchups. They did win the last one in overtime with that infamous catch by Gino Lewis.
Well, the catch was actually before overtime, but yes.
But the game that had the infamous catch.
Yes.
Is that better? Is that better?
Much better. I don't want you looking silly, Tim. I'm looking out for you here.
Okay. But yeah, the Owls need to, again, all facets, improve the penalties. They can't give up another 500 yards. I mean, they gave up 500 yards to the Ottawa. Again, it's no slight, but still, to the Ottawa Red Blacks. We need the same quarterback that we had last week that won the Player of the Week.
Yeah, absolutely. If that Trevor Harris shows up in Hamilton to play tomorrow, then Montreal's got a very good chance of winning this game. If the other Trevor Harris shows up, then maybe not, because, yeah. We remember how Trevor Harris was in the Eastern semifinal last year in Hamilton.
Don't remind me. That's why. Yeah, that's why.
Not great.
No,
I'll just leave it. We'll leave it at that. Not great.
No, not great. No, don't. Not great at all.
But again, Trevor Harris proved himself last week that he, as I said, if he and Anthony Calvillo are finally on the same page, they seem to have found what's going to work, what's going to help elevate Trevor's game to where we think it should be. Then Montreal definitely has a chance of winning this game. They just got to stay focused on putting points on the board, like real points on the board, which they did last week.
Yep.
Defense has to tighten up big time. Like I said, the secondary has been a real Jekyll and Hyde as far as outstanding play and just outstandingly bad play. So, I mean, that's got to stop right there and then. I really hope Chandler Worthy, whatever was bothering him the last game, I hope that he's over it.
Yeah, he even said he had a bad game.
Oh, he definitely had a bad game. If he thought otherwise,
yeah, that's one thing we didn't bring up there. But when we were talking about the game last week, was that what are you doing backing into the end zone for safety? Because that was a 9-point swing. Oh,
big time. And yeah, I mean, the worst possible thing you do is give momentum like that away, and that's really what he did. Like
it's true.
He had a couple of bobbles even, and it was just okay. This is not the same Chandler Worthy we've been seeing for the past couple of weeks. Like no house calls, no nothing. Like
just by our former returner who had a house call, Butte too.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Like when Mario Alford for the Rough Riders can go, what is it, 121 yards for
113
off a miss.
113.
113. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He takes one to the house, and Chandler Worthy just lays an egg. Nah, that can't. I'm really hoping it was just that one game. Like I think everybody's allowed to have a stinker, and if that was the case, like that was last week, and he's going to be back to form this week, that'll be great, because I mean Montreal really does have something special, I think, with their special teams, and we know what Chandler Worthy can do. I just hope he just burns the tape from last week and just focuses on getting back to what he was doing before. If he can get another house call in Hamilton of all places, that'd be awesome. Just take the crowd right out of the game. Like no more steam whistle, no more blackouts, no more whatever nonsense they do to get the fans riled up there. Like you got to take the crowd out of the game as well. Like,
I agree.
It is a very dangerous place to play when this team is motivated. So if Montreal can just take the crowd out of it right away, just really set the tone early. I mean, they got to get this win as far as I'm concerned, because you're going to be playing back-to-back games against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and there's just no beating the Bombers right now. Like, I mean, everybody expects them to lose, and they just find ways to win over and over again. And they got to be licking their chops too, looking at Montreal, especially with how shaky the defense has been. Mm-hmm. Another reason why they've really got to tighten things up and really get their act together defensively, because Winnipeg is going to feast on this secondary if they're not careful. So if they can come out, really make a statement against the Hamilton Tiger Cats and really set the tone, get that W, come back home to face the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in a home-and-home series, it's just going to be good things. It's just going to have great ramifications as far as I'm concerned for the Alouettes.
Yeah, here's a key stat before we finish up. The Alouettes are actually scoring 9.5 more points a game than the Hamilton Tiger Cats are, and they are the Alouettes are actually a +9 when it comes to the turnover ratio versus Hamilton. Montreal's at -4, and Hamilton's at -13.
Yeah, I mean, right now Hamilton's just they're finding new and creative ways to turn the ball over to their opponents. So they got to tighten that up big time. I mean, they got to find a way to stop giving the ball to the opponents. I mean, I'm sure Montreal, if they can take advantage of that fact, that create some turnovers, and they've got the guys that can do it. They got playmakers that can make it happen. Like if Najee Murray, once again, if he can jostle a ball loose and either take it himself or get someone else to run it, or any of these guys on the defensive line can just get right in Dane Evans' face and just cause him to make the mistakes that he's been doing the past couple of games.
I know. Yeah.
This defense could probably put up a whole bunch of points themselves if they get their act together. And if you're going to do that, this would be the team to do it against, because right now they're so susceptible when it comes to turning the ball over, especially in the red zone. They've got scoring opportunities that they've pissed away because of just their inability to hang on to the ball.
Yep, totally agree with you. I totally agree. Enjoy the game. Don't forget it is on Thursday, so make sure if you're listening, if you haven't listened to this already, you need to listen to it before the game starts.
Yes.
We will be back next week to talk about about the whiteout game. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Can we just put, you know what? Screw the whiteout game. The countdown clock is for the Poutine helmet. And just as a reminder, since I didn't do it at the beginning of the show, look on our socials. We are going to be starting the contest for the giveaway for the 2 free seats for the SportBuff flight crew seats for the next game versus the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Yeah, so if you're a fan of Thursday Night Football and you want to see the Alouettes live, this is your opportunity to do it. So make sure you enter the contest. We'll send out all the links. We'll make sure everybody's aware of how you can get yourself these beautiful, amazing flight crew seats. So make sure you throw your hat in the ring, and we want to see you at the game too. Like if you win those seats, we want to see you there. So get on that, get entering, and may the best man or woman or whomever win.
Exactly. So Cliff, I'm glad you're feeling better, my friend. Again, everybody stay safe, do what you need to do. But we will be back here next week and to talk about the Hamilton Alouettes game. So for everybody here at the flight deck for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.